You need to write every day. As a writer, this is something that I've heard a lot, and if you're a writer, which you probably are if you clicked on this video, you probably have heard that too. The real question is, should you actually follow this writing advice? And in this video, that's what I wanted to talk about. Should you or shouldn't you write every single day? Sup peoples, and welcome back to another segment of Ash cleans their room while talking to you about writing. Today, we are addressing this corner, as well as the piles of things here that you can't see. We're going to be dusting, cleaning, organizing, potentially getting rid of some things that I don't need. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna do things. It's gonna be productive because this is the only time that I'm in my room besides sleeping, so I need to do something. Anyway, that's not why you're here. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe this is going to be a new trend. But you're probably here because you want to know whether you should write every single day or not. So I've broken this into sort of a pros and cons style list. First up, why should you write every day? Now, I didn't actually follow this rule at all until more recently. I never really felt like I needed to write every day until NaNoWriMo of last year. And I sort of realized that to do NaNoWriMo, just by the name of the game, you gotta write every day, you know? There's daily word count goals, and you have to hit 50,000 words by the end of the month. And I got pretty close to doing that, even though I'd never written every day before. So I feel like one of the cool things about writing every day is how much more productive you're going to be, just like by default. You know? It also helps you to create discipline because at the end of the day, no matter how cool your novel idea is, you're going to need discipline to actually make it come to life on the page. You're going to need discipline to actually finish your book. And writing every day is a pretty good way to find that discipline and sort of train yourself to be able to write on command instead of just when you want to or when it's convenient, because you know, you're sort of putting yourself in a position where you have to write every day according to your own rules. Like, obviously, if something came up and you couldn't write that day, that's fine. But by trying actively to write every day, you're going to make the chances that you write every day a lot more likely than if you were like, I'll write when I feel like it, which is what I used to do. So discipline and productivity are two major reasons that writing every day is incredibly helpful, and that I've started to do it myself. Take a writing routine, for example. If I tell myself to write every day, that's one thing. But if I make an actual writing routine, I know what time and for how long and all of that sort of thing, that's when I'm going to really start, like, it's going to become a part of my day-to-day life. Writing will just become a part of something I do no matter what. And that's going to, again, help with productivity, help with that discipline. So I will link my video on making writing routines up above if you want to check that out. I feel like having a routine can really help with both the discipline, productivity, writing every day, all that sort of thing. I feel like those two sort of things go hand in hand. My current writing routine is that every night from like 6 to 7, I will work on my novel. I feel like when we say write every day, you picture one thing. You know, you picture like, I'm writing for hours every day, but I just don't have the time to do that, so I don't. I don't think that writing every day has to be this sort of like huge commitment. Even if it's just, I sit down and I write a couple hundred words at night before bed, you know? Like, I'm working on my novel, Project Eros. Beta reading for that is in the description if you want to check it out. I also am writing a fanfic right now, just for fun. Because I think that having writing for just fun, that I don't have to worry about like super high quality control, is important. For a little while I was doing short stories, now I'm doing fan fiction. I don't have enough time to like really devote a chunk of my day to that. So every night after dinner, there's like 10-20 minutes tops where I have nothing to do before bed. And I've started just like writing during that time. Sometimes I'm not able to because I have to do something else. Sometimes it's only for like 5 minutes, but you know, slowly, steadily, over the last couple weeks, I've written 3 chapters of my little fanfic. Is each chapter only like 1,500 words? Yeah, but it's still progress. That's still me telling a story, even if it's taking not very long. So even if you just set aside like 10-20 minutes every day to write, that will accumulate. And in that same vein, it's like, if I did 10 minutes once a week, that would take so much longer to accumulate than 10 minutes every day. So if you write every day, you're just automatically going to write faster. Your progress will be made faster. And I'm sure I speak for a lot of us when I say that we want our progress to be quick. I've been writing my project for a while. It's not something that I want to take much longer. So the quicker it can get done, the more progress that I see, the more I feel motivated to keep making progress. So I feel like if you can get into a good rhythm with writing every day, you can really up your productivity. Now, why shouldn't you write every day? Plus cleaning. Writing is ultimately a creative pursuit, unlike cleaning. So if you're not feeling inspired to do it, then trying to make yourself will ultimately just lead to you burning yourself out further. Sometimes, even though I know I'm supposed to be writing every day and making good progress, and that I will enjoy that progress once it has been made, the best thing for me to do is just to not write that day. I used to make myself write, even if I didn't feel inspired that day, even if I felt like the last thing I wanted to do was write. But all that led to was me being burned out for months and not being able to write when I could have taken a day off and solved that whole problem, avoided that whole situation. Would have been so much better for me, so much better for my writing, so much better for progress. And that's why I think that giving yourself hard and fast rules, while yes, it can help you with your discipline and your progress, can also really hamper your creativity. And you have to be super careful to respect your own process as well as those rules. If you need a break, you need to honor that. Because anyway, if I wrote every single day when I was feeling burnt out all those days, my writing progress would be trash. It's not like it would be good writing that I was going to use. I'd write up every day, burn myself out further, and then trash everything I wrote. And there is just absolutely no point in doing that. So dusty. So when you need a break, take a break. It is totally fine. Sometimes I will need a break for like a week for no apparent reason. I couldn't tell you why I needed that break. I just did, so I took it. And respecting my creative process and my boundaries and how I work in that way is incredibly helpful because it means that I don't get burnt out nearly as much. Now, sometimes you just need to stop writing and just put it all aside and not think about writing projects or anything for a little while. And that's totally fine. Sometimes you just gotta do that, and you should. But another thing that you can do is have multiple projects. So do you know how I mentioned having the side projects, my fanfic right now? That is just for fun. That has actually been incredibly helpful in helping me to stay motivated. I was in this sort of like writing rut. I was struggling with my novel. I was not feeling very inspired by it. So I took a break from the novel and I just started working on this fanfic because I wanted to and it was fun. And it ended up being exactly what I needed. Working on the fanfic purely for fun sort of cured my writer's block because it got me excited about writing again. This is something you can do also with having multiple projects. So let's say that you're me, okay? You've got a couple different projects, a couple different irons on the fire. On the one hand, you have your comic, right? You have Project Punk. On the other hand, you also have your novel, Project Eros. I will link vlogs for Project Eros up above. You're writing Project Eros and you're enjoying writing it, but it's like you're sort of struggling. You know, you've hit a bit of a roadblock and it's just not working right now. So you put it aside and you work on Project Punk instead. You're still writing every day, but you're not writing the same project, so you're able to not have the same problems. You're not stuck on the same plot point. You're not trying to write the same characters. It's sort of like you're back at ground zero. No more writer's block. Now, sometimes that can help, and that's why I'm mentioning it. Sometimes you just need to not write at all, and that's totally fine too. You can respect your limits and your creative process, and sometimes you can just write nothing. And that is totally valid. You do not have to write every day to be a writer. And sometimes I think that we can forget that. That we can forget that it's okay to take a break. It's okay to feel writer's block. Writer's block is a natural part of the process, and it's fine to experience it and need that break. Another reason that you should not write every day is that making it a rule makes it a chore. If you set yourself a rule, you'll feel guilty about every time you don't do it. Like, I'm working on a novel right now, and I set myself a schedule to write every day. I think I lined out how long the project should take if I did that, and it lined up with what I was hoping for and all of that. But because I had told myself to achieve my goal, I had to write every day. I had to write a chapter every 3 days. Like, I had set it all up for this thing. I had lined it out precisely. I knew exactly how everything was supposed to work. The end result wasn't that I made faster progress. It was actually that if I skipped a day of writing, I felt like I'd screwed up the whole schedule, and that skipping a day of writing became skipping a week of writing, became skipping a month of writing, because I felt like I had already screwed up. I had already failed by skipping that one day. So what did it matter if I skipped another? And the more that I skipped, the guiltier I felt, the worse about it I felt, the less inspired to write I felt. And in the end, it just created this like guilt trap that I had set for myself. Sometimes it was totally out of my control whether or not I could write that day, and sometimes it was my own fault. Sometimes I spent 3 hours on Tumblr, and that was on me. And sometimes I had work late that day, and it was nothing I could control. Not my fault at all. But it felt exactly the same, because either way, I wasn't making writing progress. The progress that I had told myself, the progress that sat on my calendar and stared at me and had a big red X through it now, instead of a big green check mark, and I started to like need to cross it off. So on the one hand, crossing off that I had written that day was a great feeling. But on the other hand, not crossing it off for a day was a horrible feeling, and really messed me up sometimes. Like, I didn't end up writing last night. Now, I am trying to be okay with that. There's a big red X on my calendar now, but I'm trying to be more forgiving of myself and accept that that's gonna happen sometimes, and that's okay. There's so much dust in the air, it's not even funny. So I'm trying to be like more accepting of the fact that sometimes, whether for good reasons or bad, I'm not gonna have time to write. Like yesterday, it was because I spent my writing hour making Dragon Prince memes on Tumblr. I'm admitting that, and I know that isn't what I should have done with that hour, but I enjoyed it, and I have only some regrets, okay? So I do it again, that's what I'm saying. I would do it again. I would regret it again, but I would still do it. Does making it a rule help your productivity? Yes. But making it a rule also makes it so that you feel like you've broken a rule if you don't do it, which is something you need to be careful of, because the last thing you want is for writing to start to feel like a chore. The whole point of me wanting to be a professional writer is that I want to love my job. I don't want to take a thing I love and turn it into a job. You know? The final reason that no, you should not write every day is that forcing yourself to write every day is eventually just gonna result in burnout. I feel like that's inevitable, and it's happened to me. I really enjoyed doing NaNoWriMo and writing every day, but after NaNoWriMo, I took like 2 months off of writing because I was just sort of burnt out, and like, was that the most progress I'd ever made on a novel? Yes. Did I write almost half a novel in a month? Yes. Did I end up taking off 2 months afterwards because I felt so exhausted? Also yes. You know, both things can be true. It can be a great way to become productive, but it can also sort of kill your productivity. Like, the key word in forcing yourself to write every day is the forcing part. If you feel like you can write every day, then write every day. But if it doesn't work for you, do not feel like less of a writer because it doesn't work for you. Because you are no less a writer just because you don't write every single day. And another thing to keep in mind is that you can write every day and take breaks. You know, like, I know that those two things sound like they can't happen at the same time. But let's say I write every day, except 1 week I'm just not feeling it, so I take that week off. Cool. I wrote every day except for that week. You can get nitpicky and say that's not writing every day, but I feel like at the end of the day, it's about reaching a balance that makes you the most productive, but also the most inspired and excited to write that you can be. That's why I think you should and shouldn't write every day. The moral of the story is take advice. Yes, but take advice that works for you. If someone says you should write every day, be like, okay, that's some advice. I'll try it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And that doesn't make you any less of a writer. You are still the same level of writer as someone who does write every day. It's not about how much you write or how often you write, not even about word count or how many books you have written or how many books you have published or how many ideas you have. You could write a book over the course of 20 years, publish it, and then never write again. And guess what? You're still an author. Just do what works for you, not what works for other people. If you're trying something and it's not working, just don't do it anymore. It's that simple. So this has been a very, well, there's still so much dust in the air. This has been very chaotic, but I cleaned things. I cleaned all of this off of my shelf. So I'll call it a success. And I will see you in the next video. Hopefully this helps. I sort of just wanted to discuss whether or not this was good writing advice. It wasn't like, yes it is or no it's not. It's something that I've seen a lot and that I feel like can be good advice, but can also be taken the wrong way by newer writers. I know that I used to feel like I wasn't writer enough because I hadn't done certain things or didn't do things a certain way, and I don't want anyone to feel that way. Okay, I've rambled enough. I will see you on the next page next week. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you finish this video. Thank you, semi-surprised. But I will see you then. Have a good rest of your day. I'm gonna turn this off before it gets weird.